to introduce to ECLEVA is we're a business advisory as well. We focus on something very specific. We focus on helping organisations improve productivity by leveraging technology, and we help them execute. And when we say technology, we're actually talking business applications and some interesting peripheral stuff. So the topic, where's the indicator? Make sure coping with application overload. Now, because of what we do, we're out there talking to people about two things. One is productivity. The other one is technology or business application. This slide kind of represents, I think, how we all feel. I mean, I feel it. We're just being bombarded with applications all the time. New ones are coming online all the time, and even the ones that we think we know are getting enhancements and all sorts of stuff associated with them. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about why this is happening, so we have a little bit of context, and then give you a bit of a framework around how we approach it, how we approach recommending application sets or styles of applications when we talk to organizations. And hopefully they'll give you at least a way of kind of categorizing and thinking about some of this, what can seem like a muddle. So, why is it happening now? 4 strategic application categories to think about when you're trying to make some decisions. How to decide which category is best for you, and then a bit of a summary on successful application selection. Why is it happening now? Well, one of the reasons is that IT is becoming like electricity. So just a little interesting historical perspective. You've got human progress on the left there, and you got time on the right, and there's this thing's really interesting, electrical engineering. So there was a time when you had chief electrical officers, you had organizations having to build electrical infrastructure for themselves, and they had dedicated teams doing that. Electricity itself, or the ability to deliver that, was a competitive advantage, and people needed to invest in it, and it was a talking point. There aren't any chief electrical officers anymore because electricity has just become a baseline. Not too long ago, IT infrastructure looked like this. Mainframe servers, WANs, LANs, all sorts of stuff. I used to sell that stuff as well. So it was fun, but pretty confusing as well. All that has turned into this. You've got a device, you've got Wi-Fi, and you've got the cloud. So it's been simplified amazingly. I'm pushing the edge a little bit. Sure, there's hybrid. Sure, there's people who still have on-premise stuff like that. But this movement has actually enabled the growth of applications. The appliance, just like with electricity, the new appliance is the app. After the electrical revolution, we started getting all these household appliances, which drove the 1950s and drove all sorts of productivity enhancement, because people started focusing on appliances and what appliances do. For us now, the app is the appliance. We don't need to think as much about infrastructure anymore. Not saying it's not important. I'm just saying that's not where the business focus necessarily needs to be. So, why the application explosion? Costs have dropped significantly. Low costs because of the infrastructure being available. Guys in their garages can write applications and deploy them, and they can be globally successful, or at least they can be successful enough to hit your inbox or your browser or whatever. as I said, IT infrastructure has been simplified and standardized. As a result, creating applications has become easier. Just like electricity, most of the innovation is targeted in the app, the innovation that hits us in the face. And it's also attracting more people who can do it on a global scale. Now, what I want to introduce you to is the concept of strategic categories. Don't worry about the definitions of these categories, because that's what we'll be talking about, what makes these categories different, and therefore how does that impact how you might want to make the decision. But one category is point solutions. People familiar with those logos? Yeah? ERP package. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So enterprise resource planning are large systems that actually try to integrate a bunch of processes in your organizations end to end, right? And consolidate the data. Recognize a couple of those names? Business application platforms. Now these are kind of recognizable. The G Suite is a Google thing. And you may have heard of the Microsoft Power Platform. You probably haven't heard of Appian. But while platforms have been around for a while, the focus on them has increased dramatically over the last couple of years. We'll talk about that. And build, develop. You may have heard some of those things. So the strategic categories are, so when you're thinking about what application is going to suit my needs and where I'm at the moment in my life cycle, the suggestion is to think about those categories. Point solution, ERP, business application platform, or build, develop. So a point solution, the purpose of a point solution is to do a limited number of things really well. Right? If I'm putting out something like a Trello or a Monday.com or a Microsoft project or something like that, I want to do that, show that I'm doing that really well, and have it horizontally applicable. Yeah, but that's all I do. That is, I want to be able to say, I'm the best at this. You want this, I'm going to give you this. So point solutions. CRM systems traditionally are a bit like that as well, or they were, where, hey, I'm just doing sales optimization, I'm just doing marketing, but I'm doing it really well. MailChimp, another point solution, yeah? ERP packages do a lot of things really well, but in a specific industry. So what they'll do, what they've done is they've gone, well, actually, there's a bunch of point solutions that would suit an industry, right? And what we can do is we can build all that together so that we can do really well broadly, but it needs to be industry specific. Business application platforms do a lot of things really well, but are industry independent. There are some downsides to that. And build, develop, do whatever you want really well, theoretically, I mean, basically, if you've got the skills, the dollars and the right people, you can do whatever you want really well. So who's heard of scaling up? All right, scaling up is it actually says mastering the Rockefeller habits 2.0. So scaling up is an approach to scaling your business, right? And the sorts of things you need to focus on when you're scaling up your business, by a guy called Vern Harnish. It's a dense book. It's got a lot of stuff in it, very difficult to execute, and that's how he makes his money, because he gets people interested with all the ideas and then he helps them execute. But I'd really recommend any business having a read of that. One of the things that Vern says is that for all of our businesses, there are 4 to 9 processes that actually drive our business. So our first kind of job on the journey to scaling up is to identify what those 4 to 9 processes actually are. One of our core, we've identified them, there's probably about 8, but one of our core ones is deliver valuable customer support. So that is a core business process for us. What that means is we need to be as proficient as possible in that process, right? If we can be as proficient as possible within our 4 to 9 processes, that means we're actually running the business, we understand the business, and we can differentiate and leverage. Yeah? Some of them are similar for all companies. You know, a lot of companies might need to deliver valuable customer support. However, there will be others that are specific to your firm or industry. So, clicker time. How well do you understand the processes that drive your business? I've identified my key processes and analyzed and documented them. I've identified my key processes, but I haven't analyzed and documented them. I know a couple without the D, but may not know them all. I haven't thought about it, we just do what we do, and processes aren't important. To a degree, none of this is wrong, but it does affect how you look at the software categories. Point solutions have embedded business processes. That's what they do, right? So you get the application and it's got business processes in there. ERP packages have embedded business processes. They're pre-built, they're ready to be used. Business application platforms have some embedded business processes, and build, develop don't have any. So here's the relationship and the implication. So one company that we worked in, a construction company, has gone through very fast growth, right? They asked us to help them on this journey. And one of the things they realized as we were working through them is that they didn't have mature business processes themselves. They didn't understand their business. So they actually, I won't say they didn't understand their business, they just knew that they didn't have deep knowledge of their business processes. So they went with an ERP because the ERP delivered them all that as a baseline that they could start working from. Another company in construction that we're working with went on a similar journey for about 6 or 7 months. They actually bought a couple of ERPs and went, none of this actually suits my business process. I'm going to build, develop. Yeah? So which one you pick depends, or how well you understand your business processes influences which one you pick. So, point solutions are vanilla. As I said before, they're designed for horizontal take-up. ERP packages are vanilla for the industry, right? They're designed to be able to be, if you're manufacturing, they're designed to have multiple manufacturing companies be able to take it up. Business application platforms are a vanilla unique combo. They have partial vanilla processes, but what they've done is that they've built ways to easily customize your processes. Yeah? So that's really, there are 2 things that business application platforms do differently. One is that they give you a kind of low code ability to customize processes and allow you to share data. So we'll get to that in a second. And build, develop, unique. I mean, build, develop, you just build your own unique business process. And last clicker question, where's the value? Well, moving on to data now. Where's the value in your data? We've identified it and leveraged it. We've identified it, don't leverage it. We're struggling with identify it identifying it, we don't see much value in our data, and I don't know what you mean. The value of data is actually under debate. A lot of people are actually still trying to work out where the value of data is. And you'll get a lot of stuff coming out there around the value of big data and everything else, and it's all good discussion, but there is no consensus on where it all is. So I'll give you a few different types of value to think about. There's direct value. You can monetize it potentially, you can sell it. People have been doing this for a long time in the dreaded marketing lists or in the web, Google and all that sort of stuff, Facebook, right? Monetizing data to actually get a return directly from having certain types of data. There's automation value, where you enter it in one system, but use it across many systems. So that's like an efficiency value associated with it. And there's AI value as well, where that data now with machine learning can actually be used, if you have enough of it, to gain insights that you wouldn't necessarily have before. There's recombinant value, and that's combining data from different internal and external systems. So I was watching a YouTube clip from the CFO of Microsoft, and one of the things that she was saying is that their goal, both internally and from a product perspective, etc., is to get a truly 360-degree view of the customer, right? So you're not just seeing the sales, you're not just seeing but you're seeing the sales, you're seeing the hits on the website, you're seeing the social sentiment, you're seeing the performance of your delivery organization, everything in one customer-centric view. So that's recombinant data, being able to pull it all together. There's algorithmic value. So this is the kind of Netflix example, where there's an algorithm that runs through when you make your selections, etc., and they run the algorithm and therefore suggest. I mean, it would be impossible to, sorry, I won't say impossible, it would be crazy for them to try to give us a structure to go through their entire library, because they've got hundreds of thousands of films and all that sort of stuff, right? No one would ever do it. So they have the algorithms. It would be just as crazy for them to try to do this manually by a person analyzing the data. So you get the algorithm in there. One thing that we've done, removing human intervention and using AI, is we've actually using facial recognition software to recognize photos. One of our, we have a not-for-profit client who is into child sponsorship, etc., and they have to report regularly on the progress of the child to the sponsor. And they had human beings matching photos that they got from this year's report and last year's report and trying to match whether the photos of which photo matches which child. Right? Now we just whack it all up onto Azure, machine learning, and they do the match and come back with a sort of exception report. Right? Now we're not PhDs in artificial intelligence, and this is one of the other things about infrastructure and other services coming down. We're technologists, we can do that sort of stuff, but in our hands, we now have the ability to do that. So there is, you can use your data to remove human intervention and therefore increase productivity. And then this other one is really the negative side of that. What happens if you lose your data? Right? So that's much more of a core security style value. What's the impact on your business if you lose your data? And they're just some of them. There are other people who talk about others, but these are reasonably consistent. And yeah, some of them you might need more big data for, but a lot of them You just need your own business data. So looking at how data plays into this, point solutions and narrow siloed data. They're built to serve the embedded business process, vanilla kind of functionality, do it really well and hold the data in their database. Racing here. ERPs have broad siloed data. It's broad because it's kind of end-to-end process across the whatever it is they're offering, but it's still siloed. Business application platforms are designed to achieve common data so that the data is available across any application in the platform. And build, develop depends, because it depends how much you want to build and develop. The other thing to think about is lifecycle costs, right? When you're actually making decisions about what sort of application to put in, these are the things you have to kind of think about. The most obvious one is licensing, right? That's the one that a lot of people focus on. Project implementation, configuration, customization, again, and integration. That's the piece around, can I have this, am I happy to have this data siloed, or will I need to integrate this data? Excel gets used as a band-aid for siloed data. Excel's good, but it's the enemy of great. Because what happens is people go hit siloed data and they start building these crazy Excel spreadsheets to try to bring the data together. And a lot of time gets spent doing that. Change management. It's all very well getting an application, but you're going to need to make sure that your people can use it and everything else. Support, which upgrades, enhancements. You're not going, particularly these days, you're not going to get an application and have it be static in your environment for X number of years. Things change quickly, not necessarily from the application side, but from your business side. We've talked about innovation, we've talked about adaptation, etc. The business cycle changes a lot more quickly. So you need to think about how your application is going to change over time. And switching. Based on your maturity and life cycle, just like that other construction example, they invested in ERP, they did a whole bunch of stuff, and then they said, no, we've hit the wall. We need to build, develop. So there could potentially be a switching cost somewhere down the track. So how do the strategic approaches stack up? Point solution, initial costs are low, but total cost depends. Because it really depends how you're going, whether you're going to hit the wall in terms of needing to enable processes that you've discovered are unique or whatever, and what you want to do with your data. ERP packages, initial costs are high, total cost is probably high. And the reason for that is while the data picture might be covered 80% or something like that, your enhancement picture becomes problematic, because I've just been delivered this SAP manufacturing end-to-end vanilla thing, right, which is quite expensive up front. Now I want to change it. The only way I can change it is by hiring SAP again, SAP consultants, and go through a whole process where they are modifying that core ERP to suit your needs. They have to be careful, right? It's not just a matter of, cost or whatever, they have to be careful. Business application platforms, I've got initial cost low, total cost medium. At the end of the day, anything can go up into the high thing, depending how much you want to spend, right? But total cost medium easier to enhance, upgrade, etc., and you get the combined data stuff. And build development initial costs high, total costs depends. Yeah. Sorry. So here's a little thing, some imagery. That's a point solution. That's an ERP package. The reason that's an ERP package is because every time I buy microwave, it tells me I can roast a chicken in it. I've never done it, but if I believe them, I can roast the chicken. Okay? So that's an ERP package. It can cook everything for you. But there are, sorry, did I do enter? There are industrial strength microwaves for specific industries as well that do a whole bunch of stuff, which I didn't know about, but there's a picture on the internet, so it must be true. Business application platform is like a stovetop, and build develops like these guys cooking, right? You make your own fire, etc. The beauty of that is I'm sure those chickens and things taste great and they've got complete control, and it's absolutely, for them, low cost. So just very quickly, what do these four things have in common? No. All of these four things can do one thing. They can boil water. Every one of them can boil water. Yeah? Would you still own a kettle if you were paying per user per month? Right? So it's a question about point solutions and the way the industry is driving around point solutions, right? You're paying per user per month, probably to boil water. So just to think about that. So just in summary, successful application selection. Identify the business processes that drive your business. How complex and unique are they really? Because if they're not, then they don't need to be. You're leaning over more to the point solution ERP side. If they are, you're going to hit a roadblock pretty fast. How likely are they to change over time? Right? So the construction company who went for the ERP package, they basically said, now we got a good 5 years plus of learning about how we can best use this stuff so that it's worth the investment for the 5 years. Maybe after the 5 years, we'll know all this other stuff that we don't know now, and we'll switch. Where's the value in your data and how do you want to leverage it? And consider the life costs and your business growth plans and aspirations as part of your investment strategy. So, as I said, I've just tried to give you a bit of a framework of how to address the coping with application overload problem. It's probably caused more confusion than clarity. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. And the way to minimize risk is to dive a little bit deeper and understand some of the critical things you probably need to decide before you make the selections. Thank you.